Welcome everyone to the first project progress video for my game, which is a space combat simulation using 2D graphics in the Unity engine. It's going to be tactically focused with lots of various details for the vessels, and it's tentatively titled Captain's Duel, but I'm probably going to redo that. So I'd like to jump in here and show off some of the features of what I've got going so far and show where I'm at in this really early alpha stage of the game. I could barely call it an alpha, but it's getting close enough that I really would like to show it off. Go ahead and fire up here in the play preview. Alright, so we heard the cool shields pop on there. The shields are an omnidirectional shield design. Doesn't matter where you hit them, it's the same hit point pool, but each ship will be divided up into sections that then have their own little deflector shields, or I don't know, powered hull plating you could say, and then they also have an armor layer and then a hull layer. And once you get into the hull layer, that's when the subsystems that are tied to that specific location on the ship will start to take damage. So damage is locational except for the main big shield. I thought that was a compromise, instead of having directional shields, which are cool but a little Star Trek in their own way. The idea being that the big shield is sort of an overall buffer, but the directional damage comes from hitting the actual sections of the ship itself. So instead of having like sectional shields and sectional deflectors and sectional armor, you know, most games would have sectional shields and then straight up just armor and hull for the entire ship. So I've kind of reversed that. What have we got going on here? Well, at the moment, you can zoom in and out. This is our maximum zoom in at the moment. I might change that. And our maximum zoom out, you can do it with the mouse wheel or this little slider bar over here. And if you happen to have a mouse wheel button, you can click that, it's reset to about the middle of it. We've got our little Helm panel down here. This displays our movement. This is a semi-simulated Newtonian physics. It's like semi-realistic. The idea being that it takes time to accelerate or decelerate or change vector. But there is a maximum imposed speed limit, but this imposed speed limit is universal. All ships share it. Right now it is 5 kilometers per second. The idea being that, well, number one, the number value is, I can make that anything I want. That's really largely irrelevant. I can make it kilometers, 5,000 kilometers per second with the maximum value. That's not really important. Whatever I decide ends up being a realistic unit. I think 5 kilometers per second is reasonable, because you start going faster than that, I mean, do distances really matter that much, you know? So the idea is that it's more based on the idea of acceleration. You know, larger ships will take longer to turn or accelerate or decelerate. If you want to decelerate, like if I crank this down here, now this ship is actually like, I have the thruster values kicked up quite a bit for testing purposes, but it's a small frigate. But you notice that it didn't decelerate or accelerate up to the speed instantaneously, and when you turn, it bleeds off speed. So. And the faster you're going, to some extent, the lower your turn rate, and the more you'll, it's complicated, but suffice it to say that turning bleeds off speed, and your thruster acceleration rating and your turn rating play into how fast you can maintain a high speed and how much your speed you're going to bleed off as you turn, and how fast you're going to turn, and how fast you can accelerate or decelerate. So, it also has an assist mode, which is normally on, but if you turn it off, like this, you will be able to get the sort of Babylon 5 effect, where you keep your vector velocity, but you can freely rotate. And it does take into account changes, so if I turn the assist off, it won't just immediately zoom off in whatever direction you're pointing. It'll actually have to decelerate and then accelerate into the new vector. So that's cool. And then it also has a reverse mode, which I have to apply braking thrusts. And here we go. There we go. And then now we can go in reverse. Currently, the way it handles that, it ends up being that it decelerates and accelerates a little bit faster if you just do it with assist versus actual reverse mode. That's kind of a bug to fix. See, you kind of gamed it there. It's not supposed to work that way. So, anyways, I need to fix that, but that's not a problem. So, and then what do we have over here in the top left? Well, this is our power allocation panel, which collapses to just show you the basic stats for, you know, I'm trying to keep things as screen real estate efficient as possible. But if you set this to expanded, you can see, you know, what it is. And then, so the core is this is the reactor's maximum output. As the if a section is its hull is completely depleted, any damage that hits that section will then be applied to the core ship hull, which is not visually represented. It's sort of like the internal hit points that all of the hull sections share, essentially, beyond their individual hull sections. So, and that's, you know, you figure the core of the ship, the very infrastructure, you know, the internal, I don't know, supports and reactor and all the conduits and stuff that are at the very, very heart of the ship, beyond the outer sections that contain specific systems, is tied into the reactor. So the more damage that takes, the less efficient it is, and the core output will drop accordingly. Here, on the other hand, though, so you can see the core output, right? It's being distributed in a sort of trickle-down pattern. Weapons, then defense, then everything that isn't used by weapons and defense goes into auxiliary. And here's how that works. Weapons, basically, all of your weapons total up to have a power requirement to charge at their 1.0 charge rate. In other words, their normal rate. Anything below that will inflict up to a double recharge penalty. It will recharge like twice as long. It'll take twice as long to recharge. If you provide it with up to double the power that the total weapon's power needs, the weapons will charge at up to half the basically it'll double their recharge rate. In other words, they'll take half the time that they take normally to recharge. So basically, you can either have a bonus or a penalty depending on how much power you're allocating to your weapons. Defenses affects how fast the shield and the deflector systems recharge. It's literally just their recharge rate. And then aux power gives a bonus to thruster acceleration. It's a small one, but it can add up if you dump a lot of power into it. A small bonus to turn rate, and will affect any kind of special systems, which I don't have implemented at all yet, but I might have, like, I don't know, teleporters, cloaking devices, special weapons that don't really fit in with other weapon systems, cloak detection systems. Basically, there'll be fun buttons you can click. It'll affect how fast they recharge. So the auxiliary has a lot of different stuff into it, but it doesn't affect the core operation of the ship. And then as far as engine thruster power, whatever goes, other than the bonus, they always operate at their maximum efficiency. I felt like they should be separate from the regular power grid, because you wouldn't turn off your engines completely, you know, to get power and just sit there and then die. You need to maneuver in combat. Plus, to some extent, the kind of power being output for the engines is not really necessarily able to be converted into, you know, electrical power or what have you for the ship's system. So that's my reasoning on all that, and there'll definitely be some refinements to all that as time goes on. Controls wise, the basic controls for steering the ship is just you hold the right mouse button and the ship will try to orient itself in whatever direction. You can see here you have this outer sort of triangle, I'll zoom all the way in, that is the direction that it wants to go. You can right click and just tap it, or you can hold it down. And then the ship itself, and I have a little dot here to make it really obvious, is its current direction. And that's pretty much it, really, as far as the navigational controls go. It's pretty simple. There is a booster that all will have, and what that does is that if you hit the button, it basically applies a bonus to thruster acceleration, but it doesn't let the ship go any faster. So I'm kind of rambling here, but there's a lot to cover. Finally, we have weapons. I'm just going to park it here and zoom in. Alright, so this ship is a frigate. It's the smallest of the ship types you'll be able to captain. Not going to have a ton of dreadnoughts or anything super huge in the game, but you'll commonly captain stuff like frigates, destroyers, cruisers, heavy cruisers, in that range. But since this is the smallest of the small that you'll pilot, you or captain rather, I guess you should say. I needed the turrets and everything to match up, and they're a little small, but it is what it is. So I think it's a reasonable compromise between the scale that I want to have in the game and being able to see the weapons. And there's going to be some different weapons display things. I don't have the weapons interface that will show the fact that the weapons have ammunition that's tracked, heat that's tracked, what type it is. And each weapon system will have various settings. Like, for example, these railguns are all firing in burst mode, but they're going to have 2 other settings in addition to that, and you'll be able to set them on a per weapon basis, and you'll be able to set fire groups. At least unless I somehow am unable to code that, but I think I should be able to set that up, no problem. So targeting right now is achieved in a very simplistic way. There's going to be a much more in-depth way to do that, and readouts for your shield status and defense status and all that, as well as your enemies, and you'll be able to target the subsystems of your opponent's ship and all that. But let me go ahead and fire real quick. Now you can see that these turrets here are tracking. These 2 side ones are gimbaled, and they have an individual arc of 80 to -10 on each side. So they can fire about like this on the side, and then this turret here has an arc of, I think it's just 80 to -80. So each turret arcs are defined in a negative and a positive, or clockwise and counterclockwise maximum rotation. So I can set literally any kind of arc I want. Even, I could make it 360. That wouldn't be a problem. That gives a ton of flexibility. I can have gimbaled weapons that have like a 20-degree, a sponson mount essentially, or I could have like these side turrets that are representing the fact that the turret is mounted literally on the side of the ship, not like on top like the main turret is. Which gives a ton of flexibility with how I mount the weapons. And then the turrets versus the weapon graphic are totally separate. I can assemble those in Unity and then slap them on the ships from prefabs, and we can make all kinds of fun weapons. And the code and with appropriate graphics, I can make them between light, medium, and heavy sizes of various weapons systems. So pretty fun times. Right now I just hit spacebar and it fires everything at the one target without targeting any kind of subsystem, because basically the code to handle that is there, but there's no interface for it yet. So that pretty much wraps up what we've got to show here right now. Obviously there's not much in the way of graphic effects yet. I'm firing it at literally a sphere, and these cubes here are just literally so I know that I'm moving. We have a basic star background. I think the shield effect's pretty spiffy. I'll probably leave that. I like my bullets for my railgun there. It's pretty cool. The UI is starting to shape up. No enemy AI yet or anything like that. But gotta get all the systems working first so that the AI has something to plug into. And all these shots are simulated. This is not a script. And if this were moving, the turrets are auto aiming and they track. This is not a game where you will be twitch reflexing, and aiming the weapons yourself. The computer or your gunner would be doing that for you. You're the captain, and this is more about strategic thinking and tactical thinking well, especially more tactical, given it's a battle and not a overall big map. But my point is that this is more going to be about choosing the right weapon modes, the right times to engage, the right times to fall back, what to repair at the right time, where to allocate your power, how to get the most out of your ship to win a battle. You know, I mean, with the way I have set up speed and turning, you know, getting up to a certain speed in a, like, for example, a larger ship would take a lot longer to accelerate to 5, you know, kilometers per second, or even, like, you know, 2.5 kilometers per second. And if you want to make a turn, you're going to bleed off up to half of that speed pretty quickly. So, and it's going to take you a while to get back up to that speed, whereas a smaller, more agile ship would be able to, you know, re-accelerate to that speed again and more nimbly turn. So there's trade-offs in that. There's trade-offs like if I want to fire with this gun here that's currently tracking the target, I have to expose this side. If my shield's up, not a problem. Doesn't matter. But since that shield takes damage from anything that hits the ship, that shield is always, you know, going to be the most out there thing, I guess you could say, in terms of, like, there's no way to protect that shield, you know. So if they, you know, if I'm attacking this guy and then an enemy comes over here and blasts me a whole bunch, and he blasts me a whole bunch, it knocks the shield down, and then suddenly this side is now vulnerable, and whatever systems are in there are vulnerable. So assuming that this spot's weak, you know, but that's my the gun I want to fire, because maybe it's a different weapon. You know, not all ships will have symmetrical layouts in terms of their weaponry. Maybe I've overheated the guns on the right side of my ship, you know, or the forward guns or whatever. So I need to expose that side. You know, it's like, do you want to expose that side and take the chance that it'll take damage and maybe those systems will be knocked out or destroyed, or the whole section will be destroyed and you'll start taking core damage? Or, you know, is it worth it to expose it and go ahead and be able to fire those weapons, you know? Or do you want to flip on the assist, pop your shots, and then roll out, you know? That's entirely possible, and this assist may end up being kind of unbalancing. I may have to actually impose some sort of penalty, and one possible penalty I thought of was to simply reduce your thruster output to 0 so that you, whenever you turn it back on, your ship would just stop. I know it's a little unrealistic, but from a gameplay perspective, that might turn out better. I don't know. I'm just trying to get it all finished up to a point to where I can have fun testing it and see what needs to be what. But anyways, so that's where we're at right now. I think it's pretty cool. I hope you agree and you'll be interested in seeing more from this project. It is, I hope you'll have noticed, clearly inspired by a past game I've always loved called Starfleet Command, and I'm hoping to create some of that magic with a lot of my own personal touches to make it you know, different and bring some new ideas to tactical space combat. So if you're a tactical space combat grog nerd like me, I hope you'll be excited. Thanks for watching. See you next time.